Tiramisu is one of our favorite desserts here, and today we're going to show you how to make it. Welcome back to Heartway Farms. We're so glad you're here with us today. And today, Julianne is going to show you one of our very favorite recipes, homemade tiramisu. It is such a delicious dessert and it's so easy, and we want to teach you guys how to make it. So let's get started.
So there are a few steps to this process, and the first thing we're going to be making is our Ladyfingers.
You can buy them from the store, but they're so easy to make.
They're very
simple. So Julianne
yes.
just usually whips them up real quick, but you can buy them from the store if you want to make it easier. But okay, let's do that first.
I have already separated 4 eggs. I have my egg whites and my egg yolks. To the egg yolks, we're going to add, this is 2/3 cup of sugar, and I'm going to add all but around 2 tablespoons worth of the sugar. And I'm just gonna have you beat that until it's like light and pale.
Sure.
And almost white in color.
So I am beating together the egg yolks only. The whites are separated.
Yes.
4 egg yolks and the sugar.
Yes. And then what I'm going to do is take my 4 egg whites, put them into my mixer, along with the remaining 2 or so tablespoons of sugar. You don't have to be super exact with it. And then I'm just going to beat this till it comes to a nice, medium, stiff peak. So it really didn't take that long to beat. And these are a good, not like a full stiff peak, but it's
pretty
there.
good.
It's almost there.
And my yolks look nice and pale, and that beautiful crystallized cane sugar is getting mixed in, breaking down.
Yeah, our sugar is kind of like a thicker granule, so.
Yes, that Azure standard organic cane sugar is like beautiful and very coarse.
Yeah, it's like so pretty. It's almost like sprinkles, like you can.
It is. It's like
decorate
sprinkles.
stuff.
Okay.
That looks pretty good. I'll go ahead and take this from
Sure.
you. And now what we're gonna do is combine the rest of our ingredients together in a very specific manner so that we do not deflate all of this delightful fluffiness.
You don't want to undo that work,
Yes.
right?
So what we're gonna do first is do this to our egg yolks. You're going to scoop about 1/4 of your egg whites. Nothing completely exact, but around 1/4 worth. And then you're just gonna want to carefully fold that in. You want to try not to deflate the egg whites. Make sure it's relatively combined. Okay, that looks good. And then to this, we're going to take our sifter, or sieve. This is not an actual sifter.
It's our sifter
It's
today.
our sifter today. So we have 1 cup of all-purpose flour, and then a 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder.
Here, I'll take dishes.
And then you're just gonna sift this in. There. And then you're going to want to mix in the dry ingredients slowly and carefully. Oops, without making a mess, like I tend to do. Okay, this is pretty good, pretty combined now. You can see it's still very, very fluffy in texture. And now what I'm going to do is add this flour and egg yolk and a little bit of egg white mixture back into our fluffy egg whites.
So you were introducing it slowly at first,
Yes.
as to not deflate it, but now you're combining everything. Here,
Yes.
I'll take that.
Thank you. And then I'm just going to carefully fold this in. And you don't want to do a bunch of little strokes, like if you were like beating something together, you definitely want to do like long, purposeful, careful folds.
Still nice and fluffy, looks good.
Yes.
A beautiful
So very, very
light
cloudy.
yellow color
There we go.
from those yolks.
Okay, now I have my piping bag prepared here. And I'm going to put this into my piping bag, hopefully without spilling it.
That's always the goal.
That's always the goal.
Don't waste it.
Yeah. Here, let me get the rest of this.
Now you're not using a tip with this, you're just gonna have it be a straight tip because we really don't care too much what these look like because they're going inside of the tiramisu.
Yes, if you wanted these to look pretty, you could get like a tip with pretty ridges if you wanted, but I don't feel the need to do that. So then I'm just going to cut off the tip of this. There we go. I gotta sharpen those scissors. And then I have my baking sheet lined with parchment paper. There's a piece of sugar on there. There. And then I'm just going to pipe in like little lines.
They're about 4 inches long, about 1 inch wide.
Yes. And actually, I've done this before to where like I'll pipe in between this and I'll make like little sheets. And actually, I might do that with some of mine here because they are going into the tiramisu. If you're not going to put them in tiramisu and just have them be like as a light tea cookie slash cake, finger cake.
They're good for that too.
By themselves, yeah. You could do other shapes, like you could do pretty circles, pretty fluffy things.
But for us, it's okay if they bake into each other and because right now they're really close together.
Yes.
So it's okay for them to bake together because we're putting them inside of the tiramisu. But if you are making ladyfingers just by themselves to be able to have, like she said, for a tea cookie, you do not want them this close together because they will expand.
Yes.
So that's something to consider, and that's why she's doing them so close together.
Yeah, I would at least double the space I'm giving between them if you wanted to have them be separate.
How many ladyfingers do we need for the tiramisu recipe?
Not entirely sure. We just kind of, this
Fill
one
it up.
batch makes roughly an 8x8, 8x9, 9x9 tiramisu pan. Sometimes there's a little left over, other times you use everything, so it kind of just depends.
Okay.
And these are very large for ladyfingers.
But we have about 20 ladyfingers here that we're gonna be able to incorporate into the tiramisu.
Yes.
Okay, so the oven is preheated at?
400 degrees Fahrenheit.
For how long?
8 to 10 minutes. They'll be a gentle, gentle golden brown. They'll stay mostly this color.
Okay, so we will, when these are all done, we'll bring them out, show them to you, and then we can move on to actually making the tiramisu.
Our ladyfingers are out of the oven. They are a beautiful, light, pale golden brown. And now we are going to be working on our cream for the tiramisu. So then what I'm going to do is definitely use your whisk attachment for this, and you can do this by hand, but it is much easier if you do it in a mixer. I have 1.5 cups of heavy whipping cream. And 1/2 cup of sugar. And then I'm going to beat this until it's a nice thick, like whipped cream. I'm basically making whipped cream here. You can see it's a nice thick whipped cream texture now. And now I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. Don't have to be completely exact. And then here I have 8 ounces of mascarpone cheese. And I'm going to add that to my whipped cream. You can actually use cream cheese here if you don't like mascarpone. We have some people in our family that do not prefer mascarpone. So I've actually made it with cream cheese before. And it is very good, it's very mild. It's a little different, but I like it still. Go get it all out. And then you're just gonna mix that in to your whipped cream. And that is it for our cream. We are almost ready to assemble our tiramisu.
All right, you guys, all of the different components of the tiramisu are done. The Ladyfingers are baked and completely cooled. The homemade whipped cream with the mascarpone in there is ready to go. And we've got cocoa, we've got coffee that Julianne already made, and now we're gonna put it all together.
Okay, so what we're going to do first is take our beautiful Ladyfingers, and you're just going to line them up in your pan. And you want to try to fully cover the bottom of, this is an 8x8, that's what I'm using, an 8x8 pan. And then it's okay if you have to break them, just make sure that they all fit in there relatively snugly. So that way when we brush our coffee over all of this, it will get nice and absorbed in these spongy Ladyfingers. All right, let's see, a little spot right here.
This doesn't necessarily have to be pretty. You're just covering, you want the flavor to be under. That's why sometimes you make
I like
more of
full
like the sheets of the Ladyfinger instead of the separate Ladyfingers. So, okay, what's next?
I'm going to take my coffee and brush it generously over the top. And this is around 1.5 cups of coffee. And I actually used Turkish coffee. Traditionally, you use espresso, and sometimes people even add rum or another kind of liquor to this, but because kids are going to be eating it, we're not going to do that.
It's just as good without the liquor.
So you could use a really strong coffee if you wanted. Like
yeah,
a nice
whatever's
dark
left,
roast.
whatever's left from your morning coffee pot or whatever, just throw into this. It just gives that this dessert that wonderful coffee flavor, which I love so much about it.
Yeah, the bitterness really helps to cut the sweetness in the cream.
Yes, definitely.
So you just want to make sure everything is completely coated. Like you can even like take some and pour it over the top, like a little bit, like dribble it over. There we go. All right, now I'm going to take half of my cream mixture, put some dollops over here, and then I'm going to spread it.
So right now you're doing the layering process.
Yes. And you could do this in like a trifle dish.
Yeah, it'd be
have
pretty.
all your pretty layers. I'm just doing this.
I've seen when people make tiramisu in a trifle too, sometimes they put the Ladyfingers around a ring on the outside and put it in the layers too, and it's really pretty.
All right, I have my first layer done, and I'm actually just going to repeat what I just did on top of this cream here. Our tiramisu is almost done. The last thing I like to do is to take just cocoa powder and just sprinkle it over top of the entire dessert. And it just gives it a nice bitterness, kind of like the same thing that the coffee does. Gives it a
Cuts
nice,
that sweet.
it cuts all the sweetness
for
in the
sure.
cream and in the Ladyfingers.
It looks beautiful.
And I've actually like taken dark chocolate before and like shredded it on top too, along with it, and it is also very good. I don't have that right now, so I'm not going to do that. And that is it.
Okay, so this is gonna go into the fridge until we get it out later for dessert. Our tiramisu is done. It is my favorite to have with a cup of coffee, and the layers are beautiful, especially when you cut into it. And yeah, I hope you guys try out this recipe. Make sure you tag us on social media if you try it out, and tell us how much you guys love it as well. All right, we'll talk to y'all soon, and we'll see you in the next video.